So how good are your unit testing skills? Do you think you have what it takes to take on this weekly challenge? Unless you regularly are doing testing, this one will probably stretch you. Now, if you're not familiar with this weekly challenge, let me explain. Each week, I challenge you to tackle a topic in C#. I give you all the materials you need to get started. Each challenge should take between 10 minutes and half an hour. That isn't a lot of time to dedicate to improve your C# skills, but I guarantee you that if you do the challenge each week, your skills will grow. Just like pro athletes go to practice, you need to practice to stay sharp. Now, if you want to really improve your skills, or even if you just get stuck on a challenge, I do provide a solution video and source code for each challenge I issue. Each solution video is between 20 minutes and an hour or so. Last week was just over an hour. I'll walk you through how I would tackle the challenge and why I would do it that way. I also do the bonus challenge as well. The best part is that when you sign up for the solutions, you get all the back issues as well. Check out the link in the description for more information. Okay, so the goal for this week is to create a test for the calculator class. You can see the class over here on the right. I'm providing this starter code for you so you can just start testing. Now make sure to test that the proper exceptions are thrown as well. And don't change any code here in this class. So in the calculator class, there's an easy one here, testing add. There's not a whole lot to test there. Just do a couple tests again to make sure it's adding correctly. Divide, this one's a little more tricky because if y is 0, it throws a new argument exception. So make sure that it actually does that. And then down here, the limited add, where you pass in an x and a y value, but also a min and max value. And that min and max value say that the x has to fall within the minimum and maximum, and so is the y, not the output. But if either of those falls outside those ranges, they throw an argument out of range exception. So you have to test for that as well. So there's a couple exception tests, and there's, looking for, well, divide by 0 is kind of covered with this y equals 0 exception, but just kind of test things around. You're not going to fix any code. So I haven't dealt with things like infinity, and adding two infinity values together, or max values together. I haven't dealt with that, and so don't worry about testing that. But test what's here, and just make sure you test all the scenarios that it has handled. So we've handled argument exception, argument out of range exception, and then of course the standard, does it do divide correctly and does it do the add correctly? Okay, so that's the standard challenge. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, I want you to test the text data access class, which has one method in it. And you may say, man, that sounds simple. Well, here's the kicker. In this one method is this line right here, file.writeAllLines, which saves to a text file. I don't want you to save to a text file. So when you run your test, it shouldn't save to a text file. This is very, very common in programming. You have code that does something. Let's say it saves to a database, or it deletes records from a database, or something like that. You don't want it to do that in your testing. Therefore, you have to figure out a way to extract this code safely, but then also still test all of this code. Okay? So you're going to need to rewrite this. So don't rewrite the logic necessarily, but rewrite the fact that it does the file write all lines here. Rewrite it in such a way that you can not have to do that when you call this method. Okay? But make sure you check for the path too long exception, and make sure that it changes the file path to just a file name. So what's doing here is, if you have a file path that's, let's just say, c:temp/test.txt, what this does is it says, well, just give me this portion, the test.txt. And that's what it writes all lines. So make sure that it does that correctly and it finds just this name. So as simple as that is, that should actually probably take you a little bit of finagling to get just right, so that it is something that is testable, where this whole method is testable, but it's not actually calling this. and making sure you're testing these different edge scenarios. Okay? So that's the challenge for this week. I hope you understand. I hope that you will take me up on this challenge and that you will attempt it and hopefully grow and stretch as a result. So good luck and happy coding.